Bayern Munich want Erik Ten Hag to become their new manager. Frenkie de Jong swap deal for Bruno Fernandes, and all of the reaction to Erik Ten Hag's interview with Gary Neville. These are some of the topics we will be discussing on the show this morning. But before we jump into that, please do me a small favour. Smash a like on today's video, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and let's get straight on into it. So let's start the show off by going through Erik Ten Hag's interview with Gary Neville. So if you haven't seen this, go and check this out. I think it's on the Sky Sports YouTube page. 30-minute long interview, really, really interesting. It was at Carrington. I think it was last week it was recorded. But Erik Ten Hag has asked all of the questions we want to know the answers to. He's asked about the style of play. He's asked about Harry Kane. He's asked about Frenkie de Jong. And we're going to kind of go through it all together and we're going to decipher what was said. So in relation to the style of play, Erik Ten Hag's answer is that he doesn't have the players to play the Ajax style of play. And I agree with you. When you've got Harry Maguire, Casemiro, Wan-Bissaka and Dalot as your defence, how do you expect that defence to sit on the halfway line? Because Harry Maguire and Casemiro are slow. Erik Ten Hag's teams were always built on fast centre-backs who would be able to sit in the opponent's half, knowing that if the ball went over the top, they could run back and get it. Whereas with Harry Maguire and Casemiro, like even in a foot race, they lose every single time, let alone if the ball goes over the top behind them. So it makes sense to me. And I think we can see a difference in Erik Ten Hag's play from last year and this year. I really, really do. Last year, our defence was a lot more solid. We had the best. We won the Golden Glove, didn't we? David De Gea, most clean sheets in the Premier League. And our wins were... Well, our success was built on a really strong defence. And that was, because of Luke Shaw, Martinez, Varane, and not Wan-Bissaka, and Dalot, wasn't it? Dalot or Wan-Bissaka at right back. And we haven't really seen that this season because Luke Shaw's been injured for most of the season, Varane's been injured for most of the season, and Martinez has been injured for most of the season. So our three best defenders, effectively, have been injured this season. Obviously, we've brought in a new goalkeeper. Great. Who can play out from the back. But then you've got people in front of you who can't play out from the back. So it's frustrating. And I think it's good that Erik Ten Hag did this interview because it really, for people who don't want to actually properly watch football, I think it kind of explains everything. Some people are just like, oh, we didn't beat Burnley, sack him. And it's like, why didn't we beat Burnley? What are the reasons? Try and delve a little bit deeper. He's also asked about signings. And he said effectively in not exactly these words, but he said that he wanted to sign Harry Kane. He said that in the summer they wanted to sign an experienced striker, but they couldn't get the experienced striker. And then Gary Neville says, you mean Harry Kane? And Erik Ten Hag starts laughing. And the general consensus is that they've had to go for younger profile players. And you can't expect these younger profile players to immediately be winning you Premier League and Champions League. Like, it's not going to happen. You're not going to win a Premier League with a 18-year-old Kobe Mainoo, an 18-year-old Garnacho, and a Rasmus Højlund who's only scored 7 goals in the Serie A the season before. Like, these are players for the future. It's a process. And I agree with that as well. It's just whether, Ineos are willing to back him for the foreseeable future and to kind of see out that process, or whether they want immediate results. That's kind of like what the Glazers were like before. They saw it more of a, we want success now, and then they'd sack a manager, a new manager would come in, they'd give him a year and a half. It wouldn't work. They'd sack him again because they want immediate results. And I think we have to break the cycle this time, and we need to kind of hold out, trust the process. If it doesn't work, then obviously we can all agree that it didn't work. But if it does, then happy days. Like with Arsenal, it's taken Arsenal 5 years to get to where they are. Like if you look at Arteta's record in the same time that Erik Ten Hag has been at Man United. Like, it was really bad. And, all of the fans for Arsenal were saying, get him out. But yeah, keeping on the topic of the manager. So Christian Falk, who is a very, very reliable tier 1 journalist in the Bundesliga. He reports for Sport Bild, and he's one of the best journalists for Bayern Munich. And he has just broken the story that apparently Erik Ten Hag is now in discussions to become the Bayern Munich manager. So they really, really want Erik Ten Hag to go to Bayern. I said this 2 months ago. I said that Erik Ten Hag going to Bayern makes so much sense. Just think about it logically, right? He wanted Harry Kane. That was his number 1 target. Who does Harry Kane play for? Bayern Munich. He wanted Kim Min-jae in the summer. That was his number 1 centre-back target. Who does Kim Min-jae play for? Bayern Munich. And you go through all the rest of it as well. There's, I think, Mazraoui, the right back. He was with him at Ajax. There's a couple of other players, isn't there? I think he wanted Kimmich as well. I feel like I'm missing someone really obvious. Who else am I missing? Sacha Boey, we were linked to him for a while. We were linked to Upamecano. Obviously, De Ligt was with him at Ajax. Like, there's 6 or 7 players in that first team for Bayern Munich who Erik Ten Hag has either tried to sign or has coached in the past. And we also know that Erik Ten Hag was the under-21s manager at Bayern Munich. And I bet you any money that if Erik Ten Hag went to Bayern Munich, he would do well, because Bayern Munich is a well-run football club. They've got their priority is the sport. It's football, not finance. The story then goes on to say that Thomas Tuchel is still interested to become the Man United manager, but Thomas Tuchel doesn't want any contact with Manchester United before the match against Real Madrid. I just honestly think that if Ten Hag goes to Bayern and we get Tuchel, like, I just don't think that's an improvement. And I genuinely think that Bayern Munich will have the better deal there. Like, that's my opinion. Let me know. But the fact that Bayern Munich, who are a far better club than us from a footballing perspective, want our manager, who some of these fans don't think is good enough, kind of sums it up for me. But let me know what you guys think. Like, is this something you would go for? Bayern taking Erik Ten Hag and us getting Tuchel? Let me know what you think. For me, it's a no. I don't think it's much of an improvement, and I think that we need to try and trust the process with Erik Ten Hag. He's bringing through young players. Thomas Tuchel's never been known for bringing through young players. He's more of a kind of bringing experienced players. So I think it will hamper their development. We've seen Alphonso Davies at Bayern. He's really struggled under Thomas Tuchel. So for me, it's a no, but obviously I like to see what other United fans have to say. Would you swap Tuchel for Ten Hag? Let me know in the comment section below. Right, moving over to the story about Bruno Fernandes, because this one's caught me by surprise. This is coming out from a very reliable journalist in Barcelona. And the headline is this, that Barcelona have apparently registered interest in Bruno Fernandes. It says Xavi would welcome him and first contacts have already been made to find out the total cost of bringing Bruno Fernandes to Barcelona. Apparently Jorge Mendes, the agent of Bruno Fernandes, has been in Barcelona to speak with the representatives. The story then goes on to say that Manchester United would be willing to include Bruno Fernandes in a deal for Frenkie de Jong. Let me know what you guys think about this. Would you effectively swap Bruno Fernandes for Frenkie de Jong? I mean, that's a really difficult one, because if Erik Ten Hag's still going to be our manager next season, we know how obsessed Erik Ten Hag is with Frenkie de Jong. We know how important a player like Frenkie de Jong is to the style of play that Erik Ten Hag wants to play but has not been able to, because of the players he has in front of them, because of their limited their limited skills and attributes. You know, the players we have don't suit an Erik Ten Hag style team. They don't. And people will say, oh, he bought Antony, he bought Martinez. Of course he did, but it's only like 3 or 4 players, isn't it? And Martinez has been injured for most of the season. Mason Mount's been injured for most of the season. Malacia has been injured for most of the season. Rasmus Højlund, it's his first season. You know, like, so if we actually look at the people that Erik Ten Hag's brought in, Eriksen passed his best, Amrabat, an emergency loan signing. Like, it's not like he's got Frenkie de Jong, Harry Kane, Kim Min-jae, like even Martinez. I don't think he was our first choice. I think Timber was, and Timber decided to stay at Ajax. So you've just got to bring all these things into consideration. You know, when people say, oh, he spent X amount of money, like, that's all good and well. But if you're buying your third or fourth choice targets, then either you have to wait because they're younger and they need to develop, like in the case of Rasmus Højlund, or maybe you get players that aren't actually 100% what's needed, like maybe Mason Mount. But let me know what you guys think. Would you swap Bruno Fernandes for Frenkie de Jong? Do I think this will happen? I'm going to be completely honest with you, right? If I was Bruno Fernandes, I would leave Manchester United. Obviously, I support Manchester United. I love Manchester United, but like, he's been here for, how many years has he been here? Is it 4 years now? I think it's 4 years, and he's won 1 trophy, and it's a League Cup. I honestly think that Bruno Fernandes could be in like a Real Madrid team, a Barcelona team, a PSG team, like a Bayern Munich team. I think he's good enough to play for any of those top sides who are competing for trophies every season. I genuinely believe that. Yeah, he's been here for 4 years now, or 4.5 years it will be in the summer. He's 29 years of age. He'll be 30 this year. I'm going to be blunt. If I was Bruno Fernandes, I would leave Man United. Like, we're probably not going to win anything in the next few years, being completely honest. And that's not me being negative. It's just being realistic, isn't it? Like, we might win a League Cup, but do you genuinely think next season or the season after, based on how bad we've been this year and for the last 10 years, that we're going to go and win the Premier League? No. And with Bruno being 30 this year, he's in his prime now. He's probably got 2 or 3 years left at the very, very top level. And is he going to win the top trophies, you know, the Champions League, the Premier League at Manchester United in the next 2 or 3 years? I would say it's a massive question mark. I would say a very slim chance, to be honest. And if I was him, I would look at Barcelona. I would look at other clubs and say, I have more of a chance of winning the top trophies there than I do at Manchester United, because we're not even going to be in the Champions League next season. Like, just let that sink in for a second, right? The next time that Bruno Fernandes could play in the Champions League for Manchester United would be, obviously not this year, as in the next season. It would be the season after. He'll be 31 by then. So Bruno Fernandes' next Champions League performance, if he stayed at Manchester United, he'll be 31. Let that sink in for a minute, because we're not even going to be in the Champions League next year. It'll be the year... Is that right? I don't even know if that's right. Yeah, that is right. Yeah, he'll be 31 years of age the next time he plays in the Champions League. That's crazy. If I'm him, I'm thinking, you know, I'm going to move on. But do I want Bruno Fernandes to leave? I'd probably say no. I think he's one of our better players. I know he frustrates people. I know his inability to retain the ball and all the rest of it is frustrating. But I do think he's one of our best players. And I think that, I mean, if we swapped him for Frenkie de Jong, that would be a good deal. I would be happy to do that. But selling Bruno Fernandes... I don't know. It's difficult. You might sell him. You might bring in another midfielder who's more suited to Erik Ten Hag's style play, and it might be better. It's really difficult to say, but he is probably our best player, if not in the top 3 of our best players. So for me to sit here and say sell our best player with no plan is not really how I want to, run this. But yeah, it's difficult. Let me know what you guys think. Frenkie de Jong for Bruno Fernandes. Yeah. Right, I'm going to wrap the video up here, guys. If you have enjoyed today's video, please consider leaving a like, comment, subscribe. It doesn't cost you any money. It really helps the channel, so I would massively appreciate it. I'll be back later today at about 6 o'clock as usual. Have a lovely day, morning, evening, and I'll speak to you all later.